pleasant evening, everyone. Oh, bless the Lord. It is good to see this McMillan family. I thank God that we are together, and we are just looking forward to your powerful testimony and the discussions that you will lead us out in this evening. Welcome to each one of you, the participants in this testimonial this evening. The SDA Country Living, Seventh-day Adventist Country Living Caribbean is a group of like-minded Seventh-day Adventist Caribbean-based Christians who love God, and we just want to be obedient to Him in every aspect of His instruction. And so we recognize the need to follow His way, to follow Christ as we move into the country. I am now inviting you to just bow your heads for prayer.
Our Father and our God, we thank you for all the blessings you have bestowed upon us this day, thus far. And we submit ourselves to you as we enter this meeting, and we ask that your Holy Spirit take full and complete control of this evening's proceedings. Be with our presenters, our guests, our participants, everyone, Lord, that we all leave here with greater information as to what you will want and expect from us. Help everything, Lord, to go seamlessly. Those that still have to log in, the internet connections and all the devices and all the recording, Lord, that everything goes together to your name's honor and glory. We submit all things to you in prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And so I am your friend, Dr. Salat Henry Buckmeyer, and the person that just did the prayer is Elder Mark Buckmeyer, my personal friend for the last almost 14 years. And so, just to get our minds in tune to the topic at hand, and while the Breath of Health Ministry, good, you have set up, and I invite you to introduce yourselves as you begin to share your story. Selected Messages, Volume 2, pages 357. The Lord desires His people to move into the country where they can settle on the land and raise their own fruit and vegetables, and where their children can be brought in direct contact with the works of God in nature. What a blessing we have been given through the instruction from the pen of inspiration. Breath of Health Ministry, the time is now yours, and may God bless you abundantly this evening.
Thank you, and appreciate the invite to the McMillan family so that we can share our testimony with you guys today. It's a privilege, and we just want to first of all give thanks to God for no problem. All right, well, I'm here tonight. Well, just first of all, would like to apologize if you all hear a lot of babies in the background. I guess they're pretty much more excited than us to share testimony, so I see it seems like they want to share also. All right, so we have started this ministry. I believe it would have been at around Carnival time last year. That would be around February, March. We got the inspiration to, start a family ministry. Seeing that, we were actually a little way off from a lot of our from our local churches. So we decided that, you know, we would do our best to continue to do some work in our community and share the gospel and health in our community, you know, through via whatever means that we could. So I am here. My name is Kerron McMillan, for those who don't know. And my wife is here also. You could introduce yourself.
I am Camillia McMillan here as well.
That's our daughter, Camilla, and
Introduce Akai.
the little noisemaker we have here is Sakai McMillan. So the work of the true medical missionary is largely a spiritual work. You know, this is one of the texts that we, okay, baby boy, is one of the texts that we took into consideration when we started our journey together, knowing that we had that burden to see others. We had that burden to see others, you know, restored to health, and you know, to see people get better. It actually stems from a place whereby Camilla herself and myself, you know, I lost my mom and she lost her dad, you know, to
Disease.
yes. I'll let Camilla take it.
Yes, sorry. To cope with Zakai, you know, we both lost our parents, well, one of our parents to, you know, some form of disease, and we know that it doesn't only affect us alone. So if we could aid in helping others in that way, whether it be might be verbal, you know, some people where we meet one-on-one, or by our lives, that we could even, through God and what He has done for us, stop the family curses, quote unquote, or things that can pass on in our lives. And if we can stop it there, then it will be able to benefit not only ourselves but others as well. The medical work done in connection with the giving of the third angel's message is to accomplish wonderful results. It is to be a sanctifying, unifying work, corresponding to the work which the great head of the church sent forth the first disciples to do. That comes from Counsels on Health 540.4.
So we decided that the best way to be able to, well, not the best way, but to follow the great master in his plan of work, we had to follow all lines in which, you know, he had counseled us to do. So we saw that this, you know, applied to health, it applied to where we live, and it also applied to, you know, the preaching of the gospel, the true angel's message. So, you know, here is where our journey starts in terms of us, you know, because we know that we're more so here to speak about, you know, country living. So this is a photo of us in the earlies. This is actually where we're located. So as we continue to go along, we'll see much more of, you know, our garden and, you know, things, and how we was able to acquire this piece of property and all the attainments and all the joys we experience up here. So our journey begins actually at Mova, you know, Mario Mova, to say that's in the vicinity of Port of Spain. Now, my wife and I, we actually lived in very close proximity to one another, but throughout our whole experience, or throughout our youth actually, we never, I believe, once actually met or crossed paths, and we actually were very, very close to one another. You know, our conversion into Adventism, we were not always Adventists. You know, we both used to be in the world, and we, you know, so at some form or the other, the way the Lord brought the message to us. You know, I got it at 22, actually, that was in 2013.
And I got it at 22 also, but mine was in 2015.
Right. And there our lives, you know, meshed. We saw a lot of, you know, similarities in one another. We saw that we were both mission oriented. We both loved health. We both loved, you know, exploring and experiencing new things. You know, and it was at that point we decided, well, hey, let's get married. And there was no, I guess, proposing, getting on one knee, but, you know, as we were continuing to study God's word and we discussed, we eventually decided that we're going to get married. So I at my conversion at 22, who's at 22, decided we're going to get married at October 22. As we know, came to know that was the great disappointment. But, you know, there was no disappointment in this marriage.
Basically because on that day, God moved them to a different area of prophecy. So same as there, it is also in our lives as well too. Kerron had already moved out here. Kerron had already moved to the countryside.
So this photo you're seeing here is a photo in the hills of Mova. Actually, it's country. It's not really country, but it has a lot of land space, but it's more on the hills. And you know, my story begins where my mom, she used to work forestry division, and a lot of times they would go up to these mountainous areas and they would plant and, you know, take care of the land and whatever. So at an early age, I was experienced to some form of country living. And when I met Camillia, I would have often a lot of times took her to this point and we would go up there, and it's like almost you could have touched the clouds, how high you were up there in the mountains of Mary Road.
It was even very beautiful to see how many little villages are linked so close just by being on top of the mountaintop. So from this point is Mary Road, and then a hill over on the left-hand side would probably be like the Valley Road. And further, that would be Money Post Hills. So you're seeing all the hilltops meeting one another in one place, and you could just walk across to all of them.
Yeah, so we were pretty excited about this experience. You know, so even while we were together, this is Camillia here. She was at one point, she had, you know, her ass in her head. And I think that's a contemplation phase, you know, of, okay, what are we going to do now? You know, how we're going to have this experience constantly if, you know, we're going to build a family together, if we're going to, you know, spend the rest of our lives together. We like the quietness, we like the solitude. How are we going to, you know, experience this type of life, you know, together, you know, going forward as a married couple. We would often also, you know, bring along, you know, friends to experience, you know, what we had up there. That's before we really moved into the country. So we would, you know, bring up these boys that you see here with us. They also belong to Lisa Morrison, which is a part of Breath of Health Ministry. You know, this is her boys there, and at this point, you know, we had this little baby you seen in the arms here, that was Cadmiela.
Yeah.
You know, she had recently been born. So at that time, we would even a lot of times, you know, still visit this spot, you know, just to get inspiration from the Lord, you know, and, you know, to pray, and we would go up there, we would fast, we would talk to the Lord about all our plans and our movements. So
this is land.
So this here, what you're seeing on the far left, is the land where we actually are, where we are now.
The place that looks like a lot of bush.
Yeah. So that's basically what it is. It's bush. So my story, just not baby story. My story begins again further on, you know, when acquiring country land, is I decided to
stick it out.
You know, stick it out with some individual. There's a quotation. We actually were supposed to have it up here, but it's not. We couldn't find it. And it's about, you know, seeking those who are, you know, ageable and they are looking for country. They, you know, have country land, but they may require the help of,
you know, laboring young men. Yeah, laboring young men that are able to work.
Yeah. So. Just excuse me 1 second.
Okay, he's meeting the chatterbox.
Yeah. So at this point in my life, I met two individuals. I can't put up their photo without their permission, so you won't be able to see their faces there. And I know they would scold me if I call them older folks, because they're not really that old. At this point in time, I decided to, you know, help them. You know, I believe I had that Elijah experience with them. You know, they would ask me if I'm sure that I was really prepared for this life, if I really wanted to go forth. And I told them I would stick with them no matter what. And at this point in time, I actually was not, you know, questioning if I would have, really lived here. I was just, totally sold out of spending time with these individuals. They were my spiritual parents. I call them my adopted parents today. And they really looked out for me. They helped me in my spiritual growth and, my all-around well-being growth. So the second picture is me there. That's when the land was actually still in a lot of bush. You see, we planted some tomatoes and met some really amazing creatures.
The spider.
The spider on the third photo, the spider. That's all the little things that we saw up there. There was also some dangers for those who are squeamish. On the left is what we call the mapapi. There's two types, the Balsian, I think, and on the right-hand side is, some of the beautiful creatures you could actually find.
Very colorful chini. There's not only black colors out there. In the bush, there are a lot more.
And at this point in time, this would be actually going back a little bit because I was already working with them, that would have been 2 years in because Camillia came in 2015. I was there at 2013. At 2013, somewhere 2013, 2014, I met these individuals and I was working with them, for the year thus far. And being out there alone, I would ask the Lord, Lord, is it time, for a mate or for someone to, come and partner with me that help me really, I guess put things into perspective while we're there. And that was at the time when I met Camillia, and Camillia has a integral part of where the story goes forth.
Okay, so we started working on the house pots. The place that was once a bush, it had to be a strong faith knowing where God was leading us. So we started to build before we got married. And in our courtship period, my father passed away. And from there, the house was still in building, and right before we got married, we decided to live by my father's place before we would come up and stay permanent. Sorry. Yeah, that's okay. Thanks. Okay, so from there, the solar is kind of going off. So we hope it lasts until. So with the accumulation of a bit of my inheritance, I began to, make calls to Kerron, live with Brother Jimmy as they be quiet, as they are more experienced in building. And from there, I started to see the need push. Kerron, if he's supposed to take up a house band duty soon, I was start to gather tools from where I was working in the hardware to help us along our journey.
So these are a few texts that was, integral in us making, our decisions. Before we move, It says, the time has come when, as God opens the way, families should move out of the cities. The children should be taken into the country. The parents should get as suitable a place as their means will allow. Though the dwellings may be small, yet there should be land in connection with it that may be cultivated. So, we understood that at some point we would have to, acquire land. As I said, I was not sure that, I would have received a piece of land from, the folks that, I was working with at the time. But, all glory be to God, they had blessed me with peace. So this text, we understood that, right, even if it's a small piece, that we would, work towards cultivating and, planting that. So here is a backdrop of the folks. They actually acquired a small piece first. It was 2 lots of land. And I know a lot of people would have questions, on how many land should you acquire and whatever be the case. But here is where we started off with 2 lots, and then we had, land further inside to cultivate and to plant. So here is where I acquired, my building skills. My adopted father was very versed in many trades and skills. So I would learn a lot of, hands-on and, just to be handy for myself, before, as I was proceeding to get a wife, you know, learning to be able to run the home, to build and to do these things. So this also too is what it looked like when we finished. It was very tiny. So it was so far in accordance with what we think, a small house, a small plot, and we had a tiny home, and you know, there's where we stayed for a period of time. And I did not know, as again, we didn't have the text, I didn't know, you know, that I was actually following the principles of, you know, the spirit of prophecy. But this was the only text that we could find. It says, many will have to labor earnestly to help open the way. And these folks, you know, really, you know, open the way for us to really come to that place whereby we can have country land.
By about 2018, we were able to get at least all our belongings in the home, and it's livable.
So one of the things that we had to deal with while we were there was the decision of acquiring a piece of land that had either a deed or state land. And I know that's, you know, a criteria for a lot of people. They don't want to, you know, end up with a piece of land where someone may come and, you know, take it, or there may be contention for it. But what we understood is that in the times that were preceding us, we knew that whether or not we had deed or not, the times that were before us, if they decide to take the land, they could take it. So we had to make a decision at that point in time. And as she said, 2018 was when we finally moved somewhere between 2016 to that time. You know, that's when America, we believe, that had passed the gay rights, you know, the gay rights, the homosexual laws. And we were reading, you know, through spirit of prophecy, talking about the Sabbath and marriage are twin institutions. And we was like, you know, we see movements taking place. So it's about time to make this decision to go forth. You know, so between the decision for deed or state, you know, that's actually, we will say that's something personal, but always keep in mind that nothing that we have here is totally ours. Right?
I think one of the struggles I see happening now is, say, this could be up for discussion after, but if it is you do acquire a piece of land, the sooner you can cut your land to see from corner to corner at all your marks, put down things to make your marks one time, so you establish what is yours.
And there's for those who know, there's a statement, there's under the Waldenses, you know, we actually read that and we saw that it says that every piece of tillable land, that what my wife was just speaking of there, they cultivated it to supply their needs. So one of the things that we understood, that even as it was a small piece, every spot or every corner that was able to put a fruit tree on, we would make it our duty to plant something on it.
Some people, unfortunately, question, well, I don't have a steady job, or I don't have a large inheritance, or I haven't saved that much. So how will I, you know, acquire such land if it's possible? Sometimes it may be small, and some people get, say, they pay for a house spot, and yet they are allowed to plant, say, 10 acres, say 5 acres, say 2 acres on top of that house spot. So we see that God allows loopholes even in that degree.
So the parents should get as suitable a place as their means will allow. Now, my wife, I don't think she remembered to put it in, but as you know, my wife got the inheritance from her father. You know, at that point in time, we actually could have, you know, purchased a piece, you know, for our own and whatever. But because the folks were so generous enough to give us a piece, we know that the means could have been actually suited to actually help, you know, other people. So as best as we could, you know, and the text before that says there should be those that should make the way for others, we should always keep in mind that the acquiring of country land is not only to just suit yourself and to enrich yourself, but also to make the way for others, because seeing as, Sister White, made these statements way before, if we have come to this time now, and that text is actually very much important now, that we should really, make the way for others. We could have known that if, our family members had heeded, to this before, a lot of young people could have actually inherited, land before.
God will help his people to find such homes outside.
And another topic that we had to touch on this evening was the point of, is age an issue? And as I said, we were 22 and 24 at the time when we acquired land. And to be honest, before her inheritance, by the time I left my job, I only had at least about $3,000 in the bank. I had saved money to do some stuff, but some things happened along the way, some accidents, and money had to be expended. But that didn't deter us in any way. Neither did our youth and some of the questions from our parents. So as age being a deterrent, it wasn't really for us because I have to say, actually, coming from the background that we come from, not being in the church before, a lot of the youths without this type of parent, they put it, they go for things, they do things that they're not really supposed to, so, and they don't really heed the counsel of the older ones. So, some of that, not glorifying that, but we always know that once something came to our mind and we were convicted about what this says to us, I guess we were kind of like Joshua and Caleb. We saw that the land was good and that it could produce, and God's word is true. And no matter what report came back, my wife and I decided at 24 and 22 that we're going to push and we're going to go forward, because we see all that the word says and all that spirit of prophecy says is coming to pass. And this is a time that we need to be brave and bold. So young ones who are listening, who may be in their 20s still, and deciding if to make this decision, yet still with counsel from God, with advice, with counsel from God and from people, yet still you have to listen to the voice of God clearly and go forth.
Now, something my mother also contributed is this a fitting place for a child to be in, wondering if children will be safe. And as I reflected on the lives of David, John the Baptist, Samson, so many Bible characters, a lot of their training, or in even Moses' case, retraining, stemmed from being in country environments, having to till the land and work with the soil or work with cattle, sheep, goat, oxen, all of those things, taking care of all of those things, help them to develop faster, better, stronger. And in our personal life, that was 2017. When she began to walk, we were on the move up here more frequently as things were coming closer to being able to get everything inside the house. And she picked up walking quickly because she had to walk uphill most times. So sometimes people would come and they would see her running down the hill and she wouldn't fall because her calves were well developed. So it was so encouraging to see her develop as fast as she did. Zachary was even born 2019, and the development with him being up here as a baby, because Camilla doesn't get it all the way baby. When he came up, him having a crib and nestling in, people wonder the temperature, people were concerned about if it is he would get plenty bite from mosquitoes. With all of that, we were able to see him develop stronger, healthier, better. And we are counseling many places that, the difference in weather up here actually makes the body more in tune than, unfortunately, at least in our experience, having, say, hot water to bathe the child all the time. Little things like that actually help strengthen him. Even my postpartum Yeah, even my postpartum journey after that happened even quicker being out here. So I had the place where I could judge from Cadmilla's, good processes, Dakai's good process.
So going into the bush alone, I know this is a question for a lot of people too. In Ecclesiastes 4:9-10, it talks about two are better than one because they have a. All right. Okay, Ready? Baby. So we're back on. So we're speaking on the topic of making that country move. A lot of times it is said that want to get so far away from everyone, but God has not called us to be hermits. And we was talking about seeing the difficulties of living alone and living in these far areas by yourself. There's a lot of things that could happen in terms of emergencies, and it is really true that this wise words from Solomon that tells us having someone there to really be assistance or a help to you. And
like even now when your solar give out on you, you didn't have enough light to charge your batteries for the day, you can at least run to a neighbor to get back on a very important meeting that you're looking forward to.
Yeah, that's true. Right. Also too, one of the benefits that we see of country living, folks want to move to the country, have vehicle, and I think Sister Celeste and they would have touched on this before, is very, very integral in terms of moving to the country. A lot of times when they want, the ability for people to come this far to bring material and stuff for us, we would have used our vehicle to
or car with quote unquote 4x4 to put guttering, to put PVC, to put wood, so many things.
So this is a little picture here of when basically the shell of when we had just started. A few times, some brethren, as I said, we were up here alone, and this is where sometimes we felt the pinch of being up here alone. We had some brethren who, came and gave us the assistance to work this far. So there we have in the big hat, that's my adopted father there. I believe his face is really covered, so, he wouldn't mind. So that's me there to the right, that's us framing the house, and you could actually see the amount of bush that was surrounding us. We decided to get the frame up and everything. Now, while we were doing this, we know that the council is the plan first. So I don't have the picture here, but I actually had corn planted
everywhere,
all around the house, yeah.
And it came the best.
This is another one of my, this is basically my spiritual big brother in Christ. He is the one that taught me to do, be careful of the roofing. He's the one that teach me the roofing and the metal work. So, having the brethren there to help acquire some of the talents and the skills as a young man, to really go forward. And that's where I see the principle of the older men taking the young men and teaching them. So when they did the foundation for my house, eventually developing the scale, I actually was able to take what I have acquired and, made a loft. So the upstairs that we see into the top is where we presently sleep, and it was able to convert this tiny 16 by 20 into a place where we could even accommodate, folks to be able to come and spend time and have the experience of country living. So basically that's what we do through Breath of Health now, as we can't really, go out. We have left one of our rooms open so that people can come and, experience, country living up here in the meantime.
Oh yes, the bridge.
Yes.
Down where that beautiful water is, we used to have to come in sometimes and get your feet wet in the cold to carry the children up here. Yeah. I was so happy when this was done. I refuse to go back in that water now.
There were some nights where we came home, Even I could remember when Sister Celeste and Brother Mark would actually remember the times where we met at doing lemon. We used to come home. This bridge wasn't here yet. and we'd actually have to go down into this water sometimes if rain fell, and make our way up. And we just had to keep it in our minds that God ordered it, and we are following it. We love it. So we had to repeat in our minds that we love it, not forcing ourselves really, because we had loved the environment, but making up our minds that this is what God had ordered, and it will come with some hardships.
And you chose to live here, so sometimes you have to go through this until the bridge was made. Then you could appreciate it. Then you could say, "Yes, Lord, you carried me through no bridge, and now I have one, so now I could walk over."
Yeah. And mind you, this material that you see here is actually material that came from the forest itself. Trees that was cut down and board that was made. It looks good, but this is actually wood from the forest. So we even learned to use the material that was there surrounding us to further the building projects and these things. And as I have said in a testimony before, I don't know who was here, feel not to try to put your hand to doing anything, and ask God to help you, and He will actually give you the skills. A lot of the trees that you see cut down there, I started with a very cheap chainsaw and practiced, and lo and behold, today I could actually facilitate my family's needs by cutting trees and land and this thing, and all this at age 27. Not any boast to self, all glory to God, but people are very elated to see that someone in their 20s and young people in their 20s could actually live here and actually be comfortable in the country here. So this is presently where we are today. This is just a little snippet of the house. God brought us a very, very, very long way, and we give God all the praise, all the thanks. And this too could be anyone that is listening here, their experience and their journey. Yes, it comes with some cuts, some bruises, but nonetheless, God is steadily taking His people forward, and we know that uncle to move into these areas,
blessing.
Yes, He said, do not consider it a privation to enter into these areas. They are blessing, and we have experienced where God says that we will be as kings and queens out there. It's really, really a joy to be out there.
Even the color that you are seeing on that house is a wonderful blessing from the Lord. It's a bit of a bomb of many different things, but it was actually able to cover the entire house. And we were actually discussing that a couple weeks before, what color would we get it, and I believe God chose.
So this is our journey through country living. Any questions that anyone would have, we know that we went a little bit over the time. That's because of some of the setbacks, but this is where we are today. Yes, we would be. We're actually located in Stamina, 4 Road Stamina to be specific, and it's a bit ways inside, but there's road to drive, and because of the community that we have here, it's not tightly packed as we say community, but we can now actually drive to our property and come in. It's very beautiful up here. Well, the board is cheaper. To give an estimate, or we actually have to go back to a bit of our bills, but we know that we're way over 50,000 by now. But don't let that deter you. We did not actually
spend all
at once. We continue to labor, and we heed the council where we built something tiny and then started. Now I'm going to say 16 by 20, and somebody might be like, that's not really small, but 60 by 20 is small. But what we did, we were innovative. We used C-channel and ply, and what we did, we left the extension of C-channels on the house to facilitate like bathroom. So in the 16 by 20 itself, there would not be a toilet and bath, but whatever extension C-channel came out, we build it. We
put the bath.
Yeah, we build it onto the house at the time. So we know we're well over 50, close to $75,000. Simple.
Okay, there's a question here Would you say it's cheaper to build concrete or board? What would be your recommendation?
Because our area or where we live is on a hill, we use concrete to build the house up, and then on top of the foundation thereof, and then we put it on the sea channel and went up with the board. So the board is not sitting on the ground so that termite could take it, you know, and and no moisture is there as well too, so it does not rot very quickly. So I would say it is cheaper to go board, but your foundation, you're probably according to where you're building, you know, the slopes and so on, the hills and so on, like by us.
And I saw someone ask the question about concrete board. Concrete board is actually really good for building. I haven't worked much with it. I've recently did some, you know, doing a house for our next virgin. As I said, I acquired some skills, so I was able to help a brother, you know, do his house out of concrete board. So it works pretty well against water, and you see where it comes to, like, if you want to tile your bathroom, you know, it actually pretty much, you know, cost effective, because doing a wood house, you actually have to still come now and concrete some of the areas so you could put either your toilet, your bathroom, you know. So concrete board is very efficient. You might just have to buy the thicker one. I think it's 3/4 that you'd have to buy.
To take the weight.
Yeah, to be able to take the weight. And as again, concrete board to ply cannot really take constant soaking. Concrete board can. So someone who just asked about the containers, yes, the containers work good too, but you have to know a little bit of welding to be able to do it. And not you have to, or at least know someone who is able to do the welding, because it actually will take some work to be able to do it.
Can you do it?
Yes. So yes, there are 20-foot and 40-foot containers. We actually know a few individuals on this side who have done it out of containers.
Any other questions?
Any questions again? And someone asked about the number. Yes, we would leave our contact for those who would like to make a call. I saw a question for electricity. Now, the electricity that you see behind us is solar, and because I'm an electrician, well, basically apprentice level electrician, first class. I do installations. You know, it's fairly easy because I'm in the field a little bit. So the wiring of my house is totally on me. I didn't require any help to do any of the installations or the wiring for thereof. The problem that we had just presently there is we did not check some of the cells on our batteries for a period of time, and you know, it kind of ran down the cells a bit. So that's something you have to keep in mind when it comes to electricity. And I saw someone asked about, yes, building for others. Yes, I do that also. Anyone that needs assistance to help to build in their country experience, yes, I offer a hand. We, you know, bought, you know, tools. My wife is to acknowledge for that. She bought a lot of my tools and, you know, pushed me forward. And today we, you know, help a lot of others in building. Right now, where we are right now, by one of my close brothers here, I also help him also. Yes, we will send the contact. A bit. So any other questions?
I see there's a question here. How did you do your bathroom and toilet areas, soak away, etc.?
Yes, we have the soak away. We did do this.
So there were two options that we took. We did the one with blocks. There's the fat boy that people usually buy because it's quicker, but yeah. So yes, we build that for ourselves. So we have flushable toilet. One of the things that we did also too that we realized is a criteria is water. And if you're not living close to a river or stream like we are, you know, because we built on a house,
A hill.
on a hill, sorry, we built on a hill, we, sorted out the tank stand in such a way that the water flow could actually come back in the house. So we actually have shower,
Yeah.
Running water throughout the house. So we use gravity flow. Thank you, Brother Marlon. We use gravity flow to, supply the house with water. And what we did also too, our dear Brother Marlon behind us here, he, financed the pump for us. And that's what we use.
To pump the reservoir tanks.
Yeah, so we have a main tank because, as we say, still building on a hill, you won't be able to, according to where you're situated, facilitate a lot of tanks. So we have one tank as a reservoir, and we full all the others by this one reservoir tank. So when it fills, full the rest, and the water, gravity flow brings the water back down. Yes, and if we could open a training camp, there is actually a building that you saw in the first slide. There is what we actually, the Brethren decided they wanted to build a home where people could come and experience country living and, health. Yeah. Is my wife a medical missionary? Are you? Well, I'm, how to put it, I did the medical missionary course. I still have to finish to be certified. I haven't completed it as yet.
We both studied it.
Yeah.
In that sense, we are not certified, as he would say, but in our experience, knowing if you're going to live in these type of areas, you have to be equipped enough, especially with children and fowls and little things that happen along the way. You have to know a good bit about the different herbs which we are educated about.
And that's why the first quotation that we put up, that the health work counsels on health. The health work or the medical missionary work is largely spiritual. Many may think of it as, taking, this herb and that herb, but it also calls for the praying, the laying on hands. We didn't put up the whole quotation there, but, just being able to bake a loaf of bread for someone, to help someone, in little things. It's all part of, being a medical missionary. A medical missionary is not one who basically just knows how to administer herbs. It's deeper than that.
Correct. And while both Kerron and Camillia, they're saying they're not yet certified, I can attest to the fact that they are quite knowledgeable on medical missionary practices, health practices, and Camillia is a master herbalist. You see her there. She knows what bush is for what and how you use it, right? So don't look at them slide, they are tall. It is, there are a few other questions. Someone mentioned definitely that they would like you to open a training camp for the brethren. Another person is asking for advice in terms of building the different types of plantings, etc. What would you recommend? And just looking for land to live on. What are some of your recommendations?
And we didn't hear the last question.
What are your recommendations in terms of just looking for land for country living? I mean, you shared your experience, but how to begin? How to begin looking?
Yes, as she said, first thing to begin with is prayer. In terms of, looking for country land, it's very vast. There's a lot of country land in Trinidad and Tobago. We have heard it said before that, there's no country land, but we haven't, that's not been true in our experience. To say what someone would look for in terms, I think one of the first things that is that you could ask.
Yeah.
I
think our old estate is a good place to start. Sometimes you see the place just kind of grew up in bush. You could ask around and somebody might know somebody, as Trinidadians does, know someone.
So that's I think one of the first things you ask. Usually some people say they look for country living, and there's a quotation that you know, it's said that prayer does not take the place of duty. A lot of folks, you know, may want to pray and, you know, say, you know, Lord, lead me to this, Lord, lead me to this. But, you know, we have to get up sometimes and, you know, take that step, that initiative to really ask and find out. Because, you know, by asking, you know, you will at some point come across someone, or the Lord would send someone in your path. So in these type of cases, I say it's varied. Prayer doesn't take the place of duty. When you pray, you know, get up and do your 0.1%. God does 99.9. Yours may just be that 0.1. So, you know, that's the best place to start prayer and ask.
Okay, great. And there's a key question here which hits each one of us. It impacts on each of our lives. So the question is, do you live off of your garden mostly at the moment? How do you really finance your existence while living in the country?
So, as I say, my wife sells plants. So I have seen, you know, I don't know, well, not say I don't know how she does it. The Lord has truly blessed my wife. She, you know, sells a lot of the plants that we had here. On one of the testimonies that we said before, when we were up here in the earlies, whatsoever the land produced, that we would have, you know, sold, and that's, you know, what financed us. You know, for part of it, I would have said at least probably, because we didn't have much at that time, it would have been 20%. Because I didn't have much skills at the time, I would actually do odd jobs. So there would be, you know, painting jobs that I would do. Because we had the car, I did transporting jobs. Yes. So when someone is actually looking for country land and they need either a driver to carry them to the location, we would have done that. You know, someone, you know, required the help, we would use the vehicle. So every
investment
that we had, yes, everything that we had, we use it as a means to sustain our country living experience. And while we became further along, well, I know a lot of people didn't have our numbers, but we at this point, you know, selling dasheen, we sold edos, cassava, pumpkin, crispy,
all sorts of herbs,
mangoes, plum when plum was in season, you know, and you know, the Lord has blessed so much that we is sometimes able just to give away. We have rough skin lemon where we are here. Bananas grow very easy, and don't think of it small that, you know, people don't like the banana that falls off the bunch, like these yellow bananas. People buy the local bananas also, and we sold that. So everything
is sellable.
We're not selling lemons right now. Sorry, it's the tree is now diminished.
But we keep people posted.
Yeah.
When we post before we leave the house.
So yeah, so when you take my number, we always post what we have here, and be sure that we do not use any type of pesticides on our land. We use whatsoever is natural. So things like stinging nettle that is on the land, we use that as our fertilizer. If you plant a neem tree, you use the neems.
Yes, we have fruit trees.
Yes, and we have fruit trees. Yes, we did the Ellen White method for a good few. For some of them, we may have not.
Yeah.
And we did see the effects of the trees that we planted with the Ellen White method, and from just, you know, sticking them in the ground, there is a difference.
On top of that, you know, it might be a little controversial, but we do not use the planting calendars.
Yeah.
We don't see any biblical evidence for it. And most times we end up planting when we can, and they works very fine for us.
Yeah.
We're here.
So yeah, because that's true. You know, a lot of times we heard that if it hasn't been planted in the right moon or in the you don't get the sufficient yield from the produce. But we have proved that wrong. I'll answer the question.
That's a long answer.
Yeah, we have just used the method. So we actually purchased, you know, 2 rabbits. Well, 1 rabbit, and we got the next one free. And we used the rabbit manure. And because 2 rabbits won't give you that manure to the extent, we soak the rabbit manure to give it a higher yield in terms of, you know, fertilizing our crops. As we said, for some of the pests, neem, and I guess a close eye helps too. you know, sometimes you could actually go watch your tree, watch the fruits, and you could see what insects are taking them. You clean them. Sometimes you use, you know, basically the stuff on the land and household products.
We see a hand up. May Alfred
Fred Innes.
Hi, I wanted to find out if when you planted the trees, you said you use the Ellen White method. When you planted the trees, did you dig those holes manually or did you
Manually.
use mechanical? Manually?
Yes, manually.
Oh, manually? Oh my goodness. All right, I'll be definitely calling you.
That's a very good thing to invest in. That is a woman's best friend when it comes to digging holes.
And
What's that?
A luchet.
A luchet?
Yes.
Mind you, the soil too is actually one of the things that you have to look, because we actually have a soil that they call sapate soil up here. It's not as high, and when it is wet, there's a method to how you dig it out, and when it is dry, there's a method to how you dig it out also. So it's not so much the fact that you have to dig, but what methods you develop and how over time here, because I would not have known that there's actually a method to digging holes. Now, when, like where we live, you have to dig your cesspit for yourself. You actually would need to know a good method, because it's not easy.
That was a work I couldn't imagine.
Thanks much.
No problem. Thanks for the question. I didn't think about that one.
How do you manage different types of pests? So whether it is fungus, insects, and even the mapipi that you all had showed us at the start.
Okay. For the mapipi, I think one of the best things is clean your land.
Yes.
If you don't leave room for them to feel comfortable and nestle in, they will depart. You know, different pests, as Kerron mentioned, looking at your plants, observing your plants to see what's getting at them. I cannot afford to buy soil, so I work on making our own, that we can, you know, use what we have around us to make the soil basically. And from that, it kind of takes care of some of the pests, and that you don't have things growing in your soil that you don't want there.
And like you said, that a close eye helps. You know, just like, you know, it's a lesson that is learned to our children. You know, sometimes we have noticed that, you know, sometimes just sitting with our children, we notice that they, you know, may have little cuts and bruises sometimes from going around in the garden. And, you know, you have to be very watchful to see it. And it's the same thing with your plants. Your plants are your babies. And my wife loves to use the word babies, but we have to. But nonetheless, you have to be able to keep a close eye on some of your fruits. And once you build a good immunity, just for, you know, your plants, you know, they will be able to fight off some of the pests. What we do actually a lot of times, since early, after the Ellen White method, what we would do, we would, you know, get bamboo and we would make, you know, nice little I don't know it, but boxes. Barricade. And we would use the grass clippings that we cut, and we would actually put that with some rotten logs and whatever. So building the immunity of the trees is, and shading the roots is actually excellent in terms of. Excuse me. Yes. We had a little emergency, baby boy fell.
Oh dear. Sorry.
Hi, good night. Do you all use fireside, or you all have your stove and so for baking and cooking?
We still have a stove. We did fireside a little bit when we were transitioning. We were coming up. We did fireside. I actually don't know how to make it as yet, but as I said, I don't spare, you know, any pains in learning anything. But so far, there's something called lipe, I think they call it. Oh, Polymism. Oh. Yes, you all are hearing us? Right. there's something called lipe, and we know, I don't know if someone knows it better than us, but we want to actually get one of those outside. I can't recall the name of it. Yeah, but one of those. Yeah. Well, we actually have a brother in the back here telling us he can show how to do it. So I guess we actually have teachers and staff when we start that school.
With the question with the worm castings, just not to take too long, we actually have the worms here naturally. So once we put the stuff in the raised bed, I bury stuff, compost stuff straight inside the raised bed and cover it well. The worms find their way back in and out whenever they please. So they are wrong. I never had to look for it. It's a new thing for persons who probably don't have. I actually gave someone some worms to start theirs and so on.
And in terms of our well, just to answer that quickly, we are in the process of doing so because there can be some, dry weather at times, and that actually had been a problem for us one of the years whereby none of our plants was able to, get water.
What took care of them? Do they still alive?
Yeah. Okay. For someone who came in late, how long have you guys been living there, and how do you deal with the mosquitoes?
They're for a season. They don't be here, constantly. I've actually been here, I believe, 7 years. In my experience, Camillia have been 5.
5 going on 6,
yeah.
7 going on 8.
Yeah, I'll be 7 going on 8. So in my early 20s, I was actually living in the area around 24, 23. I've been living here. So
the mosquitoes come out like 6. They abandon ship by about 8. It's not only mosquitoes, by the way, just to be real. You have sandflies passing through sometimes, and some ridiculous beetles that come and crash all over your house and knock into things.
But those things don't let it deter that. Those things can be sorted out. There's meshing that you can buy and you can place them over your windows. And I guess if you want to deal with the mosquitoes in a realistic way, if you want to deal with the mosquitoes, I guess you'll have to find out all the types of plants and herbs that you can keep indoors, and they actually do work. And what my wife has been doing of recently, we burn a little bit of the citronella leaf in the house, and that actually tends to stem, keep them abated for a little bit. So over time, I think you'll be able to deal with them on your own, and they won't be such a nuisance. And be honest, you will get tough. When you come here, if you're not acquainted with, yes, it's going to be, because there was a point in time I was like, before we had gotten rid of our old home, I was like, babe, I want to go home. I want to go home. I couldn't take it anymore. But over time, she told me to stick it out, and we actually was able to. So now, probably yes, you still get bites, but not as frequent, and it's not so horrible because you actually become tougher while you're out here.
Somebody asked about the weeds.
Maintenance. I wanted to answer that one specifically.
Yeah, boy.
As I say, we don't use pesticides. We don't use any weed killer or chemicals on the floor. We would waka completely. I would start probably around 6 early in the morning, cut a portion of the land, stop, and then probably someday in the week, if I had a come in, you rotate and you continue. And the lawn looks amazing. I believe sometimes people come here and they're inspired. They actually want to know how we have the lawn grass looking like that. Yeah. And I guess it's just perseverance in terms of cutting it regular, making sure it doesn't get too tall. And I think Sister Sillet and they could attest to that, because they were here and they saw it. So it just takes some maintenance in terms of cutting, at what's that, regular, so a timely basis. Same way you eat, there's time for that. The same way you yeah.
That's what he is. It's a lawn bot. You can actually, it's like a green carpet by them. Do you have any final words to send us out with this evening?
Okay. Well, what I would admonish is that when it comes to country living, just keep in mind that anything that you have is a blessing from the Lord to help others. You know, we have to understand that we're pilgrims here, and I know there is the challenge of, you know, when you acquire country land that, you know, we think that we're fixed, and, you know, we're so concerned about, you know, if someone would come here and, you know, interfere with us and whatever be the case. You know, keep it small. You know, we try not to, you know, expatiate on anything, have anything extravagant, you know, to cause, you know, anyone to really pay. But also to the community that you go to, let your light shine there. Because a lot of people in the community, when they see us now, there's like, well, they say tall man when they see me, but because we have, you know, witnessed in the community and went to others and, you know, give out food, there's like, hey, like the pastor, like the preacher, you know, I haven't accepted any of those titles, but wheresoever you go, let your light shine there. You really need to, in the community that you're in, you really need to let God's presence be felt there through you. They need to see Jesus through you. And I think that's the main, the ideal about country living, that you could really let your life, you know, pattern the life of Christ. And therefore you would see all the blessings in terms of what country living has to offer.
Amen. And you know, the question came, if you had to share your top 5 tools that you should have, you must have for country living, what would they be?
All right, so first of all, generator, chainsaw,
waka.
yes, a brush cutter,
Jet would be one for me.
yes, probably a lucha, because you'll have to plant. And
Even though it's a small tool. What?
if that's what you want to name as 5, but yeah, most likely that. So chainsaw, generator, waka, you know, luchet, and she said cutlass.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Now all tools basically, because I believe that you have to be, you know, multi-skilled. So there's actually 5 is just narrowing it down, but every tool has its purpose, especially when it comes to, you know, living in areas like these. Every tool is important. It makes the work much easier.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. The messages are in the chat saying that folk have been truly blessed. They're eager to meet you. Continued blessings to you and the family. And so as we close off this evening, Brother Kerron, would you
I
like to
see
pray for
Deshaun
us?
has a hand up.
Oh my, I missed that. Go ahead.
Yes, you can go ahead. Deshaun Tiloxing.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I was wondering, right? There would be a point in time when we wouldn't be able to buy or sell. So, if we have these gas-powered tools, would we be able to use it after a period of time? And also, you said that, you know, I think Sister White was saying, I came in late, so I missed some of these stuff. Sister White said, you know, you establish your boundaries, you mark off your land. Is this for government land or squatters land? I kind of came in late on that part, so we just needed to, if you could clear that up for us, please. Huh?
That's more so when it comes to government land. You see, now that one is actually, you know, very technical, where we are speaking concerning that, because when you buy a piece of land where you get your deed, you would know your boundaries. You know, there's, you know, land and country, they could come and, you know, sort out, you know, that for you and establish your borders. But because of where we're living, we have the comfort, and, you know, it is wiser to actually, establish your boundary and, get that, sorted out.
We're trying to remember the first part of your question.
The first part was dealing with us being unable to buy or sell. So having gas powered tools, would we be able to power them afterward?
A friend of mine, she shared with me that her husband is into some type of science. I need to do a little more research in it, but I'll just share what I understood. With equipment that runs on diesel, if hard times come, you would be able to use coconut oil as a substitute to still use it. Or normal cooking oil, as Brother Marlon is saying there. So you can see and probably look up for yourself if that have any truth to it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And on my take for it, I think primitive godliness is actually one of the things that should really be on the forefront of our minds. So though I may use my waka at times, there are times where I will actually continue to practice with the swiper and the blade. I get down on my knees and weed out the garden. Keep it in practice. It also keeps your body fit. It also keeps your mind healthy. And at that point in time, besides the noise of the waka, you actually get to sit and really communicate with God while working in the garden. So, acquaint your hands and your body to doing hard labor, so that at that time you would be able to you'll be in tune with doing these things. And when that time comes, I'm pretty much sure you might be thinking about how nice your lawn looks at that point in time.
Yes, Janelle, check it up and see for yourself. But Marlon is also writing the same thing. Oh, yeah.
Yes, and well, my dear brother here said, there's cordless and solar power tools, just charge it with the sunlight, and so that's also a road that you could take. Don't be limited to what we said, but yeah.
Gwyneth, as we seen somebody's hand up, Gwyneth, you could go ahead. I know we cut it over time, so you can go ahead, jump in. No, don't put it.
But I hope that Sean Tiloxing, I hope that answered the question.
Good night.
Yeah, thanks. I came in late, but thanks so much for the bit that I got. And I just wanted to add to the response to the last question about the tools for when we can no longer buy or sell. I believe that by then we would have made a third move for some of us, or second move for others. In other words, those who are living in town supposed to move to the country. And then at that time, when persecution is upon us and so on, we'll have to make a further move. I don't know what we call that move, if it's into the bush or mountain or whatever, but as is it Kerron was saying, we may not be thinking about a green loan at that time, and we may not even be able to stay within that country structure at that time, I believe. But that's something we could study a little more.
Well, that's the reason why I said, remember that we're pilgrims and nothing is ours. We don't want to have that experience like Lot's wife when we are called to leave. We even are attached to our country land. We
Amen.
want to actually be able, when God says get up and move, we don't have that lingering spirit, and we move at that point in time. So that's very much true.
Okay, and so with the final question that says, the seeds, are you into harvesting your seeds to replant, thinking long term when buy or sell becomes an issue?
Yes, and yes. We do harvest a lot of our seeds. We're gaining more experience now into a couple different type of crops, but yes, I've done tremendous amount of research.
Fantastic.
My business name on Facebook is Night's Plant Basics, and I share a lot of what I have discovered so far and all that I learned on there for those that may be interested.
And we're still in the learning phase a lot too. So if there's anybody on here that could contact us or contact, or on SDA country living in terms of, storage of seeds and NIZACs, NAIZACS, Plant Basics. That's the name of her, company, or NIZACs Plant Basics. So again, with terms of storing seeds for that point in time, we would love to get even more information also too.
And so, Brother Kerron,
Yes.
unfortunately, we need to
Yes.
bring good things to an end. So could you close us off in prayer?
No problem, Caddy. We're going to pray, right? Okay. Come on. Father, it was such a blessing and a privilege to talk to your people today. We thank you, Lord, for the blessings that you have bestowed upon us, and the information and the experiences that we had that we can share. You say one of the greatest testimonies that we can give to people is a Christ-ordered life. And we pray that the lives that we aspire to follow and to lead on is one that pleases you, O God. We know that in our country, experiences and our journeys, O Lord, there's a lot of trials and tribulations, but we know that the fire that is to try us is only to refine us and to make us into whom you would have us to be. Please be with everyone. We pray that they were inspired and that they would continue to seek you and ask for that guidance into their country move and their experience. Please be with everyone, be with us likewise, and I pray that all of us on that day can meet on heaven's blissful shore, that we can truly experience, what you have intended for mankind, oh God. Thank you for everything that you have done and still doing on our behalf. We love you, Lord. Teach us how to love you, we pray. We believe. Help thou our unbelief. For Christ's sake. Amen.